This pandemic has redefined the way we interact with each other. Some of us have already become adept at deciphering the muffled words spoken to us through a mask. But it's hard to tell a grimace from a smile sometimes. A lot is hidden from the human eye. Our range of non-verbal cues are being reset. How are masks and distancing norms changing our body language and relationships? I put these questions to renowned body language experts Barbara and Allan Pease, also the authors of some best-selling books like Why Men Lie and Women Cry, and Why Men Can Only Do One Thing at a Time and Women Never Stop Talking. There are insecurities, there are fears. How do they reflect in your body language when people interact now?
Yeah, well, that's right. Learning away is one of the first things, that we distance ourselves from people and events that we don't like. So if somebody's saying something we don't like, we're likely to move backwards or move to the side to distance them. That's the first thing. Secondly, that we have a tendency to look away more from people that we don't like or don't trust or are suspicious of. So as they're talking, we tend to look away. Now, there are cultural differences here. So in China, for example, people will look away as a sign of respect, as they will in Brazil. But in most parts of the other world, we look away when we're suspicious, or we look down at their body as opposed to their face. So we're not reading as much. Because we're not reading as much, or we're misreading signals such as social distancing, not shaking hands, or any other type of facial greeting, because we can't see their face because of the mask. And that's raised the level of suspicion of people everywhere. And we know that that violence, particularly family violence everywhere in the world, has increased dramatically because not only can people confined with each other, but they can't read that 60 to 80% impact that the other person's body is making. That shows how they feel. We can't see that. So we're left to make assumptions about a person, which is very dangerous.
This must be particularly difficult for people in public life, like leaders, at a time when people want reassurance from people who are leading their countries and they know that this is a very challenging time. How can leaders, how can public speakers use their body language more to exude confidence, to reassure the people who are following them?
Well, we had a really good example. We wrote to the Prime Minister of Australia and we said, we want you to endorse the hello heart, the heart hello. And we said you need to be in front of the game rather than behind it. So we sent him all the information. And we just got informed yesterday that he went on TV and he started to do an elbow touch. Now, in Australia and the rest of the world, we're telling people to sneeze at you into your elbow.
Their elbow, then they give it to you.
And then we're saying, the world leaders are saying, okay, let's do the elbow. And we're saying, no, that's transferring germs.
And they look clumsy.
A fist pump, all of those, and a high five. It's all transferring germs. So he went to put an elbow out, and the person he was greeting went,
it's very embarrassing.
I'm not touching your elbow.
I mean, you look at world leaders who are doing this elbow touching. I mean, it's a silly thing. We're told to sneeze into our elbow and cough, and then you go and offer it someone and can close the social distancing. And if the other person doesn't respond, I mean, you look like a bit of an idiot. And it's a very and foot tapping and touching each other's feet. I mean, try that with high-heeled shoes on. Not that I wear them, but Barb does. High-heeled shoes, you'll fall over with that. And so, yeah, the things that they're being offered up that we should be doing, they just don't work.
So that's why we're saying you've got to show leadership by giving people alternatives, because around the world they're putting signs, no handshaking. This is a handshaking free zone, but they're not giving the public an alternative. So they're coming up with, winks and, thumbs up and elbows and
the wink. Now, in Germany, this is a sign for picking up prostitutes.
It's just not working. Someone has to get up there and say, this is an alternative and this is what it means.
Yes.
Because what we're finding in society is some people are still putting their hands out, and then as soon as someone sees that, they're going, no, which again embarrasses people. There's no connection. If it happens to us, we'll say, let's have a germ-free hello, copy us.
Yeah.
And then we do it, and then they go, that feels so good. It feels like we've connected. There's a warmth in the smile and the eyes, and that's what we're saying to leaders. Stand up, give an alternative to spreading germs.
Yeah, see, in India, you guys have got it pretty right, because with a namaste, that's your basic Hindu Buddhist greeting. and you'll see this in some other parts of Asia, and you'll see it in Japan as well. But it's germ-free, it's accepted, and everybody understands it. But if you're meeting somebody from another country, particularly a Westerner, they're likely to put their hand out to shake. And what we found is even though the coronavirus is running rampant everywhere, that people through habit are still putting their hand out. And if you don't respond, it can create a very, very tense opening to a meeting. So if someone does put their hand out, and it's going to be a Westerner or a European, just say, let's make it germ-free. Let's copy. So copy me. And if you're going to use a namaste, the same, just copy this, or copy the heart hello, and it removes all that embarrassing awkwardness that everybody in the world right now is feeling.
Have you started working on digital body language yet? Because we are all communicating via text a lot, and a text doesn't have the inflection of voice. It doesn't have a lot of things, and sometimes you end up sending not the right signals. How do you work your way around that?
When you put body language into a text, you put it in with what's called emojis. You see, 60 to 80% of impact of a message face-to-face like we are now, Pelkey, is done non-verbally. That is by movement, gestures, hand expressions. What you actually said, the words we can write on a sheet of paper, only accounts for 7 to 10% of the impact on that person. So what you say hardly matters much at all. You know, leaders understand this. As long as they dress right, look right, and give a good performance, they might get voted in. So emojis is a frozen piece of body language. So it means if you put in and everybody watch programs had this happen, you put in a little humorous line into a text or into an email, and the other person will interpret what they think you meant. And if they have a choice between interpreting a positive response and they'll go negative. So suddenly they'll think, that Pelkey, she's a bit rude, a bit arrogant saying this, and you were just trying to be friendly or funny. But if you put a smiling emoji on the end, it shows that was humorous. Now, women are good at this. Men are a little bit suspicious about emojis. They think it's a little bit too feminine.
And if you get a response that you feel you've offended them, the first thing you do is you write back and say, can we have a Zoom call? Can we have a Skype call? I'd love to communicate with you. You know, sometimes emails and texts don't give a positive feeling. So let's connect face to face, and then you can recover from that.
There are more relationships lost with texting and more business lost with texting than any other medium, because if you don't put emojis in, you are leaving it up to the person who sees it to determine what they think you thought or what you were saying. And a lot of the times they'll misinterpret it, and suddenly you'll lose that person. And in India, the namaste is a very important part of actually reducing infections whilst maintaining relationships. And outside India, the heart hello, smiling with your teeth visible, they must see your teeth, smiling, leaning forward slightly with a hand on heart, is the Western European version of it.
Thank you very much, Barbara and Allan Pease. It was lovely talking to you. Stay safe and namaste.
Namaste. Our pleasure.